residents. Welcome to the Public Safety Forum teleconference series. Trust you and your family members are safe during these difficult times. The West Valley Patrol Division of the Sheriff's Office serves the City of Cupertino and is committed to providing a full range of law enforcement responsibilities, including patrol traffic enforcement, investigative services, school resource officers, neighborhood resource officers, canine services, and special enforcement assignments to Cupertino residents. Please join me to welcome Lieutenant Neil Valenzuela from Santa Clara County Sheriff's Office to give us crime updates from the past year covering the City of Cupertino. Let me introduce Lieutenant Neil Valenzuela. He started with the Sheriff's Office in 2002 after serving in the Army for 4 years. During his time, he has worked a wide range of assignments, including patrol, detective, and internal affairs. Lieutenant Valenzuela is the Assistant Division Commander for the West Valley Patrol Division. The division is responsible for police services for the City of Cupertino, Saratoga, and the town of Los Altos Hills, and in unincorporated areas of western Santa Clara County. He leads a team of 88 men and women, all focused on providing residents with the best public safety service possible. He holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Social and Criminal Justice and an Associate's degree in Administration of Justice. He lives in San Mateo County with his wife and children. Before I hand it over to Lieutenant Valenzuela, let me take a brief moment to outline how to make this session interactive. At any point during the presentation, feel free to ask your question using Zoom tools. I want to remind the viewers watching through Zoom that we will be taking questions throughout the presentation. For those new to Zoom, please move your cursor over the Zoom window, and at the bottom of the Zoom window, you will see several options. The Q&A function will be one of them. If you would like to ask a question, please click the Q&A graphic and type in your question. Your question will be answered in the order it has been received. I will help Lieutenant Valenzuela to address them in context during the presentation, or wait until the end of the presentation where we have time for Q&As. Without much ado, let me invite Lieutenant Valenzuela. Lieutenant, the forum is yours.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me. Captain Urena apologizes, but he was tied up on another event, so I will be filling in for him to give you guys an introduction, to give you guys a update on our crime statistics for 2020. Thank you again for that introduction. I will, if I could start sharing the screen, I can start with our presentation here. Let's see. All right. Okay, can everybody see that okay? Is that good? We're good? All right. So we're going to go over the crime trends that we've had over 2020. COVID has definitely made this an interesting year. As we'll talk about it here with some of the crime trends and some of the issues that we had over the last year. So without, we'll get up to there. Let's see. We'll talk about crime updates for the city. I'm going to be talking about the residential burglaries that have been occurring, which I know is people are always focused on, and want to make sure that we address that to make sure that people get the right information regarding residential burglaries. We're going to talk about a recent trend for the City of Cupertino, and that's theft of catalytic converters. We'll also talk about mail theft, which kind of ties into forgery, fraud, and other scams that are going on. And at the end of it, any questions that we can address, I'll address. I do see a question here that says, what is the City of Cupertino doing to catch and stop high rate of catalytic converters to Toyota Priuses? I will address that when I get to the portion of catalytic converters. I can tell you that what we're doing at that point in time, but we'll go over some of the crime statistics for the last year here. As you can see, what I have up here right now is the crime index of the crimes for the For 2020 and for 2019, you'll see in commercial burglaries, we had a 29% increase in commercial burglaries. Part of that is in relationship to the fact of COVID-19 forced a lot of businesses to shut down. And so there was we had a rash of burglaries for businesses that were closed down during the COVID pandemic. So that's why you see that big increase in the commercial burglaries. Obviously, the opposite of that is you'll see that we had 103 residential burglaries up to November of 2019, and up to November of 2020, we've had 92, which is an 11% decrease in residential burglaries. And as you can probably assume, the reason why that is because people were at home more, which made it very difficult for burglars to break into houses. Below here, you'll see the vehicle burglaries were at 412 in 2019 and down to 177 here for 2020, almost down to a 57% decrease in vehicle burglaries. The reason being for that is, again, our shopping centers and our stores were closed. Our shopping centers here in Cupertino are a big target for a lot of people to commit vehicle burglaries. People leaving purses in their cars or other stuff of value in their cars, and that's where the burglars go to get their stuff. And since nobody was going out to these parking lots, obviously there was a big decrease in vehicle burglaries, which attributed to some increase in other crimes, as we'll talk about here. As you'll see, auto theft increased from 39 in 2019 to 52 this year. We have seen an uptick on auto theft, not just an increase in Cupertino, but all throughout Santa Clara County. People are stealing cars in order to commit other crimes, in order not to be apprehended or caught, or caught on video or anything like that. So you'll see that increase in auto theft. The grand theft went up from 68 to 87. A lot of those are attributed to bicycles. What differentiates something from a grand theft to a petty theft is the value, which is $950. So anything over $950 is considered a grand theft, and that's also contributed to a lot of bicycles being stolen in the area. Identity theft went up from 92 to 132, a 43% increase in identity theft. And the reason you can attribute that is because people who used to be committing the vehicle burglaries or other means of theft have moved on to other ways of committing theft. And identity theft is an easy way to commit personal theft by stealing mail and committing identity theft. So that's the increase in that. You'll see robberies went up from 10 to 17. Again, these are things where, since there wasn't a lot of vehicle burglaries, the thieves got brazen and decided to just take things from people, and that's what makes a burglary. So if they tried to steal a purse from somebody, that's considered a robbery. I don't have any injuries that we reported in any of the robberies that we had throughout the city, but you can see that the criminals were trying to come up with another way of committing crimes. The last three sections here we'll talk about is assaults, which decreased, and domestic violence, which increased. In these two situations, with the majority of the time, the suspect was known to the victim, and obviously, and especially in domestic violence. I think the increase in domestic violence pretty much goes to say that people are home a lot more, and I don't know if tensions have just gone overboard on some instances, but people committed domestic violence, and we have a zero tolerance domestic violence policy, so some people went to jail for that. So, and as you can see, the sex crimes pretty much stayed the same, with only an increase of 1. So you keep going here. This is some of the property crimes that we've had over the last 3 years. You can see the gray bar is the 2018 statistics. The 2019 statistics that we just talked about in the orange, and the blue is in the 2020. Again, this a little bit shows you a little bit more about how we compare with how we were in the previous years, with residential burglaries decreasing as we talked, people being home, commercial burglaries increasing because of businesses being closed and vacant, vehicle burglaries decreasing significantly, which again, because of our shopping malls and our parking lots not having a lot of traffic. Grand theft stayed about the same from 2018. Did increase a little bit from 2019. Auto theft, we weren't as bad as 2018, but there was an increase from 2019 to 2020. Vandalism stayed about lowered a little bit from last year, and identity theft went up and almost matched the same stats from 2018. We'll talk about crimes against persons. You can see here the robberies have increased from the previous year. Domestic violence has increased from the previous years. Again, with the robberies, it's more than just the fact that the criminals are trying to find other ways to get money or commit their crimes. As far as the assaults, sex crimes, again, these are things that the victim and the suspect might have been tied to each other and somehow. And the assaults went down, domestic violence went up a little bit, and the sex crimes pretty much stayed the same. This is another chart here that you guys can look at. This is over a 10-year period on residential burglaries. As you can see, we are about the same from 2011 with 92 residential burglaries. We had a spike again in 2015 and stayed about the same from about 2017 to 2019 to a significant decrease in 2020. Again, because already being home. I can tell you guys for the City of Cupertino, we have teams of plainclothes deputies. They're what we call the BATS team, which stands for Burglary and Theft team. So their main focus is strictly property crimes like residential burglaries, mail theft, theft of catalytic converters, and mail theft, if I didn't mention that. But any property crimes is what they're out there focusing on, and auto theft. So they're in unmarked cars. They are not wearing police uniforms, but they do have identifying features like a vest that says sheriff when they get out of the car. The process that they use is they work a lot of areas in Cupertino that are being targeted with property crimes, and I'll show you guys how we break that information down here. As you can see here, our crime analyst types in the locations of our residential burglaries so that our burglary and theft suppression team can infiltrate that area, and we know what areas to focus on. You can see there's a large number of residential burglaries here in this area here and in this area here, which are broken down by different beats. By plotting this information down, we try to draw some patterns and some patterns into where we can put our resources so we can prevent these property crimes from occurring. Here's some information regarding the residential burglaries that we've had over the last year. Out of 46% of the residential burglaries, the suspects made entry to the house by breaking a glass door or a slider. In 8%, they broke or cut a lock. In 12%, they forced or kicked or pried open the door. Number two is unlocked an unsecured door or window. 22%. Now, I'm not saying that if the door was locked or the windows was locked that this possibly the criminal would have walked away, but I think we got to start doing a little bit better about not giving them the opportunity to just walk in. So we got to make sure that we lock our doors and lock our windows. If you have an alarm system, talk to your alarm company about installing sound monitors that also pick up breaking glass. They can call us right away if they hear glass breaking. We can respond to your residents. Open garage door, 5%. Window break and garage remote from an unlocked vehicle is another way that they're accessing residents. Here is a graph consisting of how many burglars we have and what beats. I'll talk about beats here in a minute, but our deputies are assigned to certain patrol beats. They're the Cupertino 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you can see the big increase here in the what we call the Charles 7 or the C7 beat. And I'll kind of show you what that means and by showing you what a beat map looks like. But you can see here the two biggest areas we've had residential burglaries are the Charles 7 area and the Charles 9 area. And this is a beat map of Cupertino. As you can see, it's a little hard to see, but you can see that that this is De Anza right here, and Stevens Creek goes right across here, Highway 85, Highway 280 right across the top here. And you can see that the Charles 7 area, which is consistent of this large pocket of residential areas here, that goes from Stevens Creek through McClellan all the way down to Prospect Road, is where we're having our major, most of our residential burglaries. So, and then on the other side, we have the Charles 9 area, which is the southeast corner of Cupertino, which is bordered by Stevens Creek, De Anza, Bollinger, and Lawrence Expressway over here on this side. So that's the Charles 9 area, which also is the second in residential burglaries. All right, we'll talk about catalytic converters. Does anybody, I know this is not an open forum, but if anybody can take a look at this and identify what this is here, and I'll give you guys a couple of minutes to take a look at that picture. But what you're looking at here is a catalytic converter, as you see this two right here. And this is an aftermarket system that's installed in the catalytic converter, giving the thief not as easy opportunity to steal the catalytic converter. Sometimes they'll see this and go to a different car. Not to say that they can't work around this, but anything you can do to prevent the theft of a catalytic converter is always going to be, something in the pro side. So, catalytic converter thefts in Cupertino. As you can see by the statistics, we had none in 2018. We had 2 in 2019 and a huge increase in 2017. We'll give you guys some information that a person must crawl under the vehicle and use a tool to remove the catalytic converter. These usually occur overnight, and they target the hybrid vehicles due to their 2 power sources. They have electric motor and petrol diesel engine, meaning the catalytic converters are used less frequently. The catalytic converter basically goes through the exhaust, cleaning some of the emissions, and they target the Priuses or hybrid vehicles because those are usually the cleaner catalytic converters, and that's what they want. Some preventive measures that you guys can take is park your cars in your garage if you can, restrict access to the area underneath the vehicle, park in a well-lit area, highly visible traffic area, park in an area covered by surveillance cameras, install an aftermarket anti-theft device, or call 911 if you see something going on. I can tell you, I can answer that question now. What are we doing about catch the high rate of catalytic converters? So, like I said, we have this burglary and theft abatement team that's out there plainclothes. And I could tell you in the last couple of months, we arrested over 4 people stealing catalytic converters. In every single one of those, in those instances, the suspects are driving a stolen car. They're usually out of the area, and they were targeting hybrid vehicles. And two of those six suspects got away from us in a stolen car. Oftentimes, when the suspects start doing erratic things that put the public at risk, we'll stop our pursuits in order not to expose the public to any more physical harm, since it's considered still only a property crime. Our patrol team is constantly hitting neighborhoods and catching the thieves in the act. The way they can get this, they can get the catalytic converter out of the car within minutes. They'll put the jack underneath the car, they'll put it up, they'll take a sawzall to the sides of it and pull out the catalytic converter. And in a couple of those instances, we've had the suspects have the car up on the jacks, and that's when they get back in their car and they take off and usually get into a little pursuit. But we have been arresting them, the people here, and when we do arrest them, usually they have a couple of catalytic converters in their car already. So hopefully that answers that question. We have to just catch them in the act, and every single time we catch them, we have to, we have to keep at it every single time. It's a problem that's not going to go away, unfortunately. And so hopefully that answers your question of what we're doing about catalytic converter theft. Okay, talk about mail theft and what happens when your mail gets stolen. A lot of people sometimes don't care about, oh, it's just mail, it's not a big deal. Mail theft is basically the starting of identity theft or some kind of fraud or forgery scam. We have to, if you do have any mail stolen, you have to call us as soon as possible. I'll give some tips here at the end of it of how we can prevent identity theft, fraud, and forgery. So here's, for example, here's some photos of thieves actually stealing mail. We post these pictures, we share them with other agencies to see if the suspects could be identified. To this date, none of these 3 suspects have been identified in these mail theft crimes. So just keep in mind that if you have any video surveillance of suspects, provide it to us, and we can try to see if we can share with other agencies to identify the suspects. I see a question here about what do I mean by restrict access to underneath the vehicle. Again, it's a general term of if you can park your car in the garage, if you park your car in your driveway where it's inclined, it might prohibit the suspect from trying to get underneath your vehicle. So hopefully that answers that question. I know we can't really put anything underneath a car to prevent people from getting underneath cars, but here's a chart here showing us the number of identity theft, forgery, and fraud reported. We've seen an uptick of it in 2015, and overall we're about a little bit lower than we were before, but we have to be cognizant of our mail being stolen. Just this morning, our deputies spotted the vehicle speeding through De Anza and 85. The deputy tried to make a car stop on the speeding vehicle and then found out that the car was stolen. A short pursuit went on from Highway 85 to Highway 17, where the suspect's vehicle was either blocked in or not allowed to go through. So the suspect actually left the vehicle, and she jumped over the side of the embankment over by the Cat's restaurant. We did apprehend her. We did arrest her for driving a stolen vehicle. Inside the car, she had a lot of mail from different cities, Cupertino, Saratoga, and the San Jose pockets there. Again, they're committing crimes by stealing cars and then doing that in order to commit forgery, fraud, and identity theft. So let's see, and this is another way of looking at that same information, looking at the number of identity theft, forgery, and fraud cases over the last 10 years. Again, we had a spike in 2015, and it's overall stayed about the same or decreased a little bit in 2020, but we still have to be aware that this is happening. If you've been the victim of identity theft, we recommend that you contact the credit bureaus, which are listed up here. You can always request a fraud alert or security freeze. You can go on their website to see how you can do that. We recommend that everybody get at least a yearly credit check to make sure that there aren't any credit cards that you didn't authorize under your social security number. If there is something suspicious, get the information that you need, and call the sheriff's office to make an identity theft report so we can start trying to track down how your identity became compromised. Last, I will go over the non-emergency line here, which is 299-2311. Our administration offices, you can always call during normal business hours, which is Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, excluding holidays, is 868-6600. Though that's a good number to call if you have traffic complaints or if you'd like to make a request for patrol checks in certain areas. You can always text 911 as well. If you do text 911, just be aware that it might take a couple seconds longer because what's happening is they're trying to figure out your location to send you to the appropriate 911 center. And again, our address right there is at 1601 South De Anza Boulevard. And any tips that you guys can always email to us here at wbptips@shf.cc.gov.org. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. I want to thank everybody for allowing the Sheriff's Office to serve here in the City of Cupertino. The men and women that work here in this department are grateful for working in the City of Cupertino, and they enjoy working for the City of Cupertino every single day. So I will stop the sharing here of the PowerPoint presentation, and I will open up to any questions that people may have. If there's any questions.
Thanks for that comprehensive report, Lieutenant. There is one question by email. I don't know whether you have access to it. I can read it for you. By the way,
yeah, if you could read it, that'd be great.
Yeah. So let me read this. This is from Julian Krebs. Let me read it. Hello, I have lived on Judy Avenue for 33 years. Never any problems. I'm a senior. Now I'm concerned about my safety. With a van stolen in front of my house, homeless tents are now on Valco Parkway and North Tanto with toilets. We all pay higher taxes in Cupertino. What's happening? Are we forced out of our homes to find a safer place? I'm very concerned about my safety. I do not want to live in fear. Please advise me what I, a senior, should do for my safety. Thank you. That's the question, Lieutenant.
Okay. Well, it seems like it's a lot of questions within one question, and I think what the best way to approach that question is to say to this person that they can reach out to us, and what we could do is we can send a deputy over to their house to give them some tips and information on how they can stay safe in person, whether it's providing some a walk around to the residents and then maybe take a look at their house. So we can do that for that person, to send somebody out there and give them some resources and also give them some tools or tips on how to keep safe in the neighborhood. So if you could send me their email address, I can forward that to one of our officers to go out there and make contact with them.
Yeah, I'll work with the city to make sure you get that information.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, looks like there are a couple of questions showing up in the Q&A. Can you see them?
Yes, the first one, thank you so much for your service. You're very welcome, and thank you, really appreciate it. The second question, is the Neighborhood Watch program helpful? The Neighborhood Watch program is very helpful. One of the reasons why is it gets you out of your house, and even right now, even via Zoom, you can do the Neighborhood Watch meetings to find out who lives in your neighborhood, what kind of cars they drive, get to know your neighbors. That way, when somebody can say, hey, I'm going on vacation for the next week, can you keep an eye on my house? You build that relationship with your neighbors, and you have that ability to keep an eye out for everybody in that neighborhood. So that way, if you're out of town or you're not there, your neighbor sees somebody suspicious walking around your house, they can call us and we can go out there and make contact with them. The way that a neighborhood can get enrolled into the Neighborhood Watch program is you can contact the City of Cupertino. It's on their website. I believe it was Stephanie Torini and Laura Lee who are handling that, and they can facilitate a neighborhood watch meeting where we can also possibly even send a deputy out there to give some resources and tips. So, yes.
Yeah.
And
So,
it says, thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you. We really appreciate it, everything the community does for us here in Cupertino.
yeah. We have some more time. Can I channel some of the residents by asking one or two questions, Lieutenant?
Yes, please.
So here is a question. How has COVID-19 affected the deputies in doing their jobs?
It's well, how much time do we have? It is COVID-19 has for the most part hasn't really affected a lot of us here because we have to show up to work every single day. Our deputies have done a great job adapting to work under the new required guidelines by making sure that they have personal protective equipment anytime they deal with members of the public. That includes wearing masks, gloves, and making sure that their health is protected. We sometimes have to attend, calls for service with fire department or medical calls, or where people are not feeling well at their houses, and that's something that we have to respond to sometimes, and our deputies have to adapt to work under those guidelines by making sure they're protected so that they can show up tomorrow and be healthy and not be carrying the COVID and transmitting it. We do get tested on the regular. Our staff has regular ongoing testing sites available for us to make sure that we have not been infected with the virus. So it's changed a lot. We have a social distancing protocols here within the office, but and again, our personal protective equipment we have to wear. So
yeah, we do appreciate your service. These are not easy times. Looks like there is another question that showed up on the Q&A.
The van with special equipment was stolen in front of my house on Monday, Tuesday night. I've heard this is, I think this is in relationship to the last question that we had, that it was a van that was stolen. Obviously, if you notice that your car is stolen, we need to call 911 so we can send a deputy out there so that we can put the information out about your car being stolen to all the agencies nearby so that we can pull that car over and arrest the people who are driving it. Also, something that you may want to keep in mind that a lot of people, sometimes the suspects just steal license plates. So take a look at your license plates at some point in time in your car. If the back license plate is missing or the front license plate is missing, give us a call so we can report the license plate number stolen as well too, because these guys are stealing cars and then they're putting license plates from different cars so that they don't get caught with a stolen car. So have all your staff remained well? No one has been infected with COVID. For the most part, our staff has remained well. There had been a few people that have been exposed to COVID, and the protocol for that is they are quarantined for a couple days. They have to be tested before they come back to work. Okay, I see a question here. What's the statistics on catching thieves and burglars? I can tell you over the last couple months, I can get back to you with statistics about how many people we've arrested regarding property crimes. We catch thieves probably every single night. It seems like we catch a lot of thieves, but I have to say that over the last couple months, I've seen that thieves and burglars are taking more of a brazen attempt to put the public at risk when we try to pull them over by driving erratically or driving at high rates of speed, or causing us to basically back off so that we don't put any more public risk out there. So, but I could get back on statistics of how many people we arrested for that.
Yeah. I think you presented this information. I'm going to ask the question anyway. It's not going to hurt.
Okay.
What's the best way to contact your office without calling 911?
Okay, yeah. Like I said, anybody can call our non-emergency line, which is that 299-2311. You can call our substation during business hours, or if you need to. Again, I would suggest that the best way to contact us, though, if you think there's something going on, is to call 911. One of the problems we have a lot of times is people think that they're bothering us and that we have better things to do or other things doing. give us a call. If anything, we'll go out there and figure out what's going on and help out any way we can.
Yeah. Looks like there are no more questions. So I'll take this opportunity to ask few more questions just to keep this going. So I often see speeders in my neighborhood. How can I get some direct enforcement by deputies?
That's a good question. Obviously, if it's an ongoing crime, if you see a lot of vehicles speeding or doing donuts or something like that, or burning out or going back and forth, give us a call because we might be able to respond right away to something like that. If you're requesting specific traffic enforcement during a certain time, you can always call our traffic unit, which is at 408-868-6600 number during business hours, and request that our traffic unit go out there and do some traffic enforcement on that area. If you give us a specific time where you notice speeders, we can go out during that time frame and pull people over. I will say, though, that when we do that, we tend to give a lot more people that live in that neighborhood tickets for speeding as well, too. So just be mindful of that.
Yeah, sure. One question showed up. Do you want me to read it, or you can read it?
It says, thank you, Lieutenant Valens. I will call the sheriff's office. Yes, please call the sheriff's office anytime you see any theft in progress or any car stolen. You need to call us right away so that we can get that information out there to everybody so we can try to recover that vehicle. We have a senior staying with us. Should we send email with your tips and address instructed for their safety? Yeah, we have seniors staying with us. Should we send an email to your tips address? Absolutely. Yeah, you can always send that email to us if you feel that that direct contact or us not coming to your house is probably be better for their safety. We can also coordinate some kind of Zoom meeting maybe as well too. So absolutely give us an email and we will we can touch base with that with that house and give you guys some tips and resources. So okay, and yeah, that's the
yeah, thanks. Okay, we have some more time. I'm going to ask a few more questions just to facilitate the conversation. What are the most common types of calls received by your office, Lieutenant?
The most common calls are calls for our department are 911 calls. Basically, when somebody either dials 911 by accident or on purpose and hangs up, we have to either respond to that residence or make contact with that person, make sure there's not an emergency. So we have to respond to the location if it's a house. And so if you ever call 911 by accident, please stay on the line. When a dispatcher answers the phone, you can say, this is an accident, not an emergency. They'll ask you a couple questions like where you're living, where you're calling from. And that way we don't have to send a deputy out to your house to make sure that there isn't a real emergency. And then the other types of calls that we have is alarm calls. We have alarm calls all throughout the day. Basically, if there's an alarm at your house, we will get a call from the alarm company and respond to your house to make sure that there's no burglary in progress there.
Do we have any violent crime in the city?
We do have, as we've mentioned, you saw in the presentation, we have assaults, robberies, and domestic violence incidents. Overall, the city is very safe. Crime has either gone down or stayed the same from previous years. In violent crimes, we're talking about either assaults or domestic violence. The suspect, of course, is known to the victim in those situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we are getting into holiday season. Let me ask a holiday-specific question. Do the holidays bring any specific type of crime? If so, what types?
Oh, the holidays bring on a very big crime of mail theft because Amazon has been delivering those boxes and FedEx and all the other companies put those boxes in front of people's houses. Sometimes they tend to stay there for a little bit longer than they should. And the crooks are focusing in on that. So the biggest increase we have are mail theft and package theft. So if you have a package that's being delivered, or if you have the notification that a package has been delivered, try to do your best by going out there and grabbing that package or mail so that it doesn't go into the wrong hands. So.
Looks like there is one more question.
Forgot what will be done with the homeless tents and toilets in Valco Parkway in North Towntown. They moved from Wolf and 280. Not sure if that's a question. I'm going to say that the city has done a great job of facilitating and helping out our homeless population here in the city. You got to remember that being homeless is not a crime, and I think the city is trying to provide and do the best they can. Been working with Thomas Chin, who's helped out a lot with that, and making sure that we do the right thing by our homeless population.
So that sounds great. I think we have a couple more minutes, and there may be more as a resident to help the department. Here is a question. How can residents support your crime reduction efforts?
Residents can support our crime reduction efforts by either conducting neighborhood watch meetings or getting to know their neighbors. It helps. It goes a long way to know who lives next door, down the street, and all around you by first name and getting to know what kind of cars they drive, what kind of people, how many kids they have, if their wife or husband or anybody or significant other lives it there with them, and making sure that you know your neighborhood so that when something doesn't look right, you can give us a call. Again, don't ever feel like you're bothering the sheriff's office by calling for suspicious vehicles or persons, and we can go out there and see what's going on. But the biggest way they can support our crime reduction efforts is by getting to know their neighborhoods. So when they see something that's not in place, they can give us a call so that we can get there right away.
This is very helpful, Lieutenant. And on behalf of the Public Safety Commission and the city, let me thank the Sheriff's Office and you, Lieutenant Valenzuela, for joining us today and giving us this update. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And please note that the next session is on Thursday, January 21st, next year, 2021, and will feature the Santa Clara County Fire District. Good night and stay safe.